Oh,
Morning, Yitzhak.
Morning.
Yitzchak.
Morning, Papa.
Good morning.
Morning, Bloom.
Good morning, Shlomi
Morning.
Arisen.
Morning, Rabbi.
Good morning, good morning.
Okay. Should we start where we ended yesterday, or should we go a little bit back?
That's your decision.
It's my decision. I'd like to know if I start after the mention of Emunah, would that be, will I have everybody with me, or am I losing the introduction to the whole thing? But let me start, and we'll go faster. All right, we are on Oy Samachalef on page Kuf Nun Hey. And the Rebbe is pointing out and introducing a very revolutionary concept, conceptually revolutionary concept. And that is that even that side which is makif. Makif means it is beyond being conceptualized and understood and grasped by koiches, by seichel and midas, which is Adam Kadmon. Adam Kadmon means the initial thought of the creation, which is completely within the divine purview, completely above world. And now, so this is normally to be staying in a makif, in a superior, in a supreme level, and never being fully comprehended, fully absorbed in the world.
I'm sorry for interrupting so early, but it was just said that Udam Kadmon is the initial thought of creation. Is that correct?
Initial thought of creation.
Okay, in that thought is like that takes over.
What do you mean it takes over? It doesn't take over. It first begins to reveal a divine principle for the creation.
The thought.
Okay, 1 second. Your question tells me that we are not thinking of the creation the way it really is. And this I mentioned many times. To us, the world seems to be a given. A given. There's nothing more real to us than world. We think that reality we can conceptualize certain spirituality, certain ideas and so forth, but primarily the reality of the world, this is what makes things real. This is how we perceive it in our mind. And this is a misunderstanding. The reason we perceive it this way is because that's the extent to which we can reach. But it's not the truth, the reality itself. The reality is that, in matter of fact, this level of worldly perception is a low level of understanding of the Elokus. This is when Elokus is being concealed and interpret it in a worldly way. Again, what is world? Spoke about it many times, and we have to each contemplate on the meaning of the word world. World is the presence that initially consists of many pieces. It consists of many pieces. And these many pieces coordinate among themselves to become one interactive part. Essentially, it's like two people meeting. When two people meet, they correlate and they talk about the same thing, but they're two separate people. This correlation and the interaction amongst them is a world phenomenon. What is the emphasis of that? That's a world phenomenon. The principle that if you say that this is a world phenomenon is to say that this getting together, this interaction between these two people is being created at the time when it happens. There is not a reality behind it, that these two people are one. They're not one, they're two separate people. Except they have common interests and common language, and they can interact. Even while they're interacting, they're two separate people. Two people can be walking the same street in the same direction and have a totally different intent and reason why they're walking there. That's what world is. World is a conglomeration of many independent pieces. But then they somehow conglomerate, they somehow interact. This interaction is what makes it one single world. But this interaction is something which is drawn, which is sourced in their individual interests and understanding. As we know, the Gemara says, it's an interesting phenomenon. Two people, or any number of people, they have their perceptions and their understanding and so on. None of them think exactly alike with the other. This is world. Each one thinks of a phenomenon from his own perspective, from his own understanding. They may be looking at the very same thing, and they actually have in mind totally different principles. Eleven.
Okay, and so
this, that state of being, where there is different perceptions and they're all in the same world, to us may seem to be a projected idea. Each one projects ideas according to his sake. And this is what we pointed out the other day. And this is what we are going to make happen. That in fact, what they are perceiving is a divine truth. Each one sees something which is really truth. This truth is rooted, okay, here's the point. It is rooted in a divine reality, which encompasses means which contains and allows for all these disparate thought processes. This is called Odom Kadmon. Odom Kadmon is that which allows and contains all the various human perceptions, concepts. This Odom Kadmon is the divine reality. A divine reality means that it is really a real presence. All right. This divine reality is ultimately the basis for everything, for all, to giving everything a real presence.
Danielle, can you go on mute?
Sure.
Thanks.
All right. So that two people perceive a situation in two different ways. For example, the first thing that we experience is daylight, morning. Morning encompasses the entire world. And morning touches every individual person in a different way. Morning can strike a person, oh, it's daylight, I can see my way around. Morning can strike a person by saying, oh, the sun is out. We spoke already before, light and sun and is not the same principle. Sun is the source of light. Light is the effect of light. Some people are stricken, are drawn to sun, and some people are drawn to light. These two principles of sun and light, these two ways of relating to morning, to day, are provided for in Adam Kadmon. That provides all the variations of human perception of things in the world. So that, since somebody asks a question, which is the correct way of looking at daylight? Sun or light? And the answer is, they're both absolutely right. So absolutely right that they both have a source in Adam Kadmon. And this is what the Gemara says, Eidei Eiseihem Shovis, the Das. The word Das, Chassidus explains, means Das is the reality. There's Chochma, Bina, Das. Chochma is conceptualization, Bina is understanding, Das is when it becomes real. Das is where Elokus is present. Chochma Bina is a human way of relating to things. Das is where it allows the Meibasher himself to be present, making it real. Yeah. This is effectuated, this reality that incorporates all human days or human attitudes is called Adam Kadmon. The pristine man concept at its inception, which permits and justifies and substantiates every human perception. Now, if we go deeper and try to put it in perspective, it substantiates every human perception. Can all human perceptions function simultaneously? It'll be confusing. There'll be nothing known. So this meaning that it incorporates every human perception means that it views reality, the human reality, from a higher perch, which allows of all the variations of human perception. But practically speaking, when it comes to functionality, each one functions individually. This is why we say, ain't they the same Shabbos? All many human beings, each one has his day. And each one of these days is real. But they cannot be one. Each day has to be in one other human being. Then it is a real day. If a human being fluctuates from one perception to another in his own mind, he's confused. It's called a confused human being. Can't make up his mind. Okay. This super knowledge in a person, which is rooted and provided to the world by the Madhya called Odom Kadmon, continually has an effect on the whole world. It embraces the whole world. The fact that the world is embraced by this super reality provides the world with a sense of solidity. I'm for real. Even though what I myself know is very limited, but I'm for real because I am contained within a super reality that justifies and gives credence to every one of my opinions. If we have millions of people in the world and 8 days same shoulders and they all think differently, does that mean that we're confused and the world is not real? No, it doesn't mean that at all. It means that the world, that the oil and the key that gives the world a presence allows for these multiple opinions. Because that incorporates and contains the entire worldly viewpoints is of such a madriga that it allows for all of these different opinions. So now, what the Rebbe is saying now, this is the real challenge. This that contains and provides for all these different opinions cannot be possibly contained in a human mind. As we said before, then the human being will be confused completely. In the human mind itself, it must be that he has only one view, one opinion. Yet, there's a certain impact on the human mind drawn from this higher level that allows for all the different opinions. That has an impact on the world, on the human thought process. But not in thinking per se. Once it goes into thinking, into seichel, then it will be confusing. In seichel, it has to be only one view. But seichel allows the principle that even though I have one view, the principle, the basis for that view is of such caliber that it would actually be able to be interpreted in many different ways. I see it one way, and the guy next to me sees it different way, and it's okay. We both see the same thing. We both are looking at the same reality, which is higher than seichel. Except when it comes into our seichel, we each see it in our own limited fashion. But that which is higher than seichel, that which is the basis, which allows for all the various opinions, is also present in the human being. That which allows for all the various opinions, this is the divine truth itself, which cannot be identified with one perception or another. So this is really higher than seichel. Despite that it is higher than seichel, despite that it is higher than what a human being can conceptualize, it is nonetheless known to the human being also. If he cannot define it, so what kind of knowledge is this? This is what the Rebbe says. It is a knowledge knowing the reality at the divine level, which has no way of being grasped in a worldly terms. And yet, he is in the world and he knows it. But this knowledge is not in what's called da'atam b'das, the seichel process that gets him to know it. But bibchinas emuno. Bibchinas emuna means in a mode of emuna. What is bibchinas emuna? Now we have to kind of step into this. Two people are talking, and each one has his own das, ain't they same shoulders? And each one is arguing his point. And they don't agree. Each one thinks of things in his own way. As many people as this would be, none of them will say that the way you think is wrong and only the way I think is correct. I think differently, but I'm not going to say that the way you think is wrong. If it is not wrong, so then why do you think differently? The answer is, I have a different basis in my seichel than you do. You both are seeing it, you both are getting that seichel from a divine spirit principle. Neither one of us is right or wrong. Because both of us are rooted in the truth of the divine principle. It cannot be wrong if it's rooted in the divine principle. Yet this divine principle can impress our minds in very different ways. And this is the pshat in the same Shabbos. The principle, the level at which this is sourced, that includes all the various opinions, even though I think completely different than you do. And yet, I recognize that the way you think is not wrong, which is higher than Seichel. The way you think is also viable. This is a perception in the human Seichel, human mind, that's called emunah, where the mind itself sees things higher than, from a higher perch than mind, than Seichel. When the mind recognizes, when two people argue a Seichel, they think that they're arguing on the basis of Seichel. They're not really arguing on the basis of Seichel. They both are basing their arguments from on a perception that they can't even verbalize. I always point out this. Two people are looking at the sky. And they can be looking and looking and looking. Then you turn around and ask him, tell me, what did you see? Number one, they'll be stumped to try to describe what they saw. And if they do try to describe, each one will describe it differently. Because they each saw something which was shown to them from a higher than Seichel perception. Why do we say that the sky is higher than Seichel perception? So here's a point which I'd like to bring across. When we look on Earth, every piece of Earth has its definitive presence. A hill, a rock, a ditch, a tree, a leaf. Look at sky. Sky also speaks in multiple impressions. But all these multiple impressions, limitless impressions, are not individually created. They're all part of one reality. It's almost like saying, you look at the same thing, you can look at it from this angle or that angle. But there's no limit as to how many angles there could be. Sky has a different impression on every human being. And not only that, every day has a different impression. Every hour has a different impression, depending of how he looks at things and what his mood is and so forth. These multiple views are all representing, speaking of the divine reality in the world that provides for all these multiple impressions. As long as this is a human impression, it has a source in the Likud, it's called Adam Kadmon. This knowledge is actually taking the human mind and human thinking process to a level that he cannot contemplate and identify. And yet, it is real to him. Because he is seeing the world from a higher than world level. From a level that allows multiple variations how it should express itself in one. This is also knowledge, which cannot be identified and known. And this is what the Rebbe says, that the certainty and the clarity in this knowledge is between Samuna. Between Samuna means, yes, in the world I cannot identify it, but it's really real because there's a divine truth to it. I'm looking at things from a perspective that are shown to me from a perspective that is higher than being observed. And yet I'm seeing. And now we're to inside. The line begins Mishum Tam Adar, this is 6 lines from the bottom. Rag B'china Samuna. Only in Emuna Bechina. Bechina means a verifying aspect. Bechina means like a test. What verifies that you are seeing something? The Emuna verifies it. It's real. What gives a reality something that you do not understand? And this is what he says in the Bible. Which means shehi makifoi, that this knowledge is makifoi, embraces the human mind milmayla min haseichel, from a standing from higher than seichel. So that which means that in seichel, in Amunah, in seichel, we perceive something which is really based and substantiated by a truth which is higher than seichel. This truth that we perceive in our seichel, higher than seichel, clearly we did not get to it by a seichel process. It is something which is granted to us from above. This is called the oil of Odom Kadmon. What's the time called right now? What should I do? Where should we?
9 o'clock.
What?
9 o'clock, from 8 to 9.
Okay, so 9 o'clock the clock is falling. Okay. All right, Baruch Hashem, at least we got to this point. We'll start the mitzvah tomorrow. At the end of the line, which begins here, I'm not sure what there. The line, at the end of the line is V'shoyre Shu Amun.
You have another 15 minutes.
Huh?
You have another 15 minutes.
Oh, we have time still.
Yes.
Oh, we still have. Okay. Oh, I thought to me. Okay. Okay. Okay, we have that. This is 5 lines from the bottom. Then we go to the next line. This is pointing to a source in the Pita Teda. And at the end of that line, it says, that in that Maimer, Yodaito, he speaks to Amuna in Nikro Atorah. Amuna is called Atorah. Atorah means a crown, which means Atorah, which is higher than the Seichel, than the perceived Seichel. Perceived Seichel means a Seichel that can be grasped by the Seichel. Atorah, a crown, is also perceived as a Seichel, but it's perceived in the Seichel without being grasped in the Seichel. He knows it, but he doesn't know what he knows. This is called Atorah, Emunah. This is why Emunah is invulnerable. Invulnerable. You cannot damage Emunah. Because you have no access to it in a manner that you, from a worldly stance, that you can damage. You cannot prove or disprove Emunah. Emunah is something which we know beyond challenge, beyond casting, beyond question. We cannot even answer the question, how do you know? I know because I know. Because that's what a living human being is, a Yid, that he knows this. Period. All right. Now we are at the end of 4 lines from the bottom. V'shoyresh ho'emuno b'neshama Yisrael. The shoyresh, the root of the emunah in neshama Yisrael. We once discussed the term shoyresh and mokor. They both seem to be alluding to the same thing. In English, we do not have a translation for shoyresh distinct from mokor. But in fact, shoyresh and mokor are different, have a profound difference between them.
I would say in English, shoyresh is the root, the mokor is the source.
Okay, fine. Good, very good. Let's focus in and understand the difference. Let's take a very simple focus also what we can talk about. Normally, a grass is, a tree is growing. You say it's rooted in the ground. Then there is water perking out from a wellspring. Then we say that this water has a mokor. It's sourced in the wellspring. Here we can readily see the difference. The wellspring produces the water that it contains. The wellspring doesn't create the water. It produces the water that it has. The earth makes the tree grow. It makes it grow. It doesn't have a tree inside. It gives the sustenance for the tree, and the tree should grow. This is called shoyresh. Shoyresh means that which actually creates it. Mokor is it gives what it has. It doesn't make it be. So we say, Shoyresh hu emunah b'Neshamas Yisrael. In the Neshamas Yisrael, there is an element called the Shoyresh hu emunah. Shoyresh hu emunah means in the Neshamas Yisrael, that which creates the emunah, that which substantiates the emunah, which gives the emunah a basis for being. This is not where you take the emunah from. This is that impresses you with the emunah. Shlomo, what was the words that you used to test and distinguish between root and shoresh and mokar?
Shoresh is the root and mokar is the source.
The source. All right. And this is a correct way of putting it. The source means this is where it's contained. But the root is this is where it's growing from. Let's focus in for the difference for a moment. When you say a source means this is where things are contained. No matter how much is contained therein, it doesn't automatically replenish. It is there and there and there, but it goes towards non-existence. A root has an automatic replenishment method. This is why a tree, as it is standing in the ground, and it's connected and rooted into the ground, and it can grow and grow indefinitely. A little branch can become a huge tree. Where does it come from? The principle of the little, what's on the green, can't think of the word. Not branch.
Little sapling, a little shoot.
Sapling, shoot.
Whatever it is, a little shoot, the little growth from the ground can become a tree.
The video went off.
All right.
It's about 9 o'clock now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. The reason it can become a big tree, let's think about this for a moment. It starts off as a little shoot. How can this little shoot become a big tree? Where does it get the whole idea of being a tree? The answer is, we all understand that this little shoot, when it was in its inception, when it first showed up, broke through the ground. In its source, it's a huge tree. In its source, it's a real full-grown presence of a tree. Except it manifests itself in a gradual manner. Starts out with a little shoot and then becomes a tree. So when we observe this is the problem. When we observe this shoot growing and growing and becoming a tree, we are saying, "Oh, I know how it happens. This shoot develops and it takes nourishment from the ground and makes itself into a big tree because it ate so much." It's the same thing as saying that a human being was born an infant. The reason he becomes a big man because he ate so much food. We all understand that this is not what makes a human being grow. Gives him sustenance, but this is not what makes a human being big because he ate chocolate or potatoes. I had a rabbi which he always say, "How much potatoes did he eat?" But this was his way of defining, the uselessness of the growth itself if it's not by learning and so forth. Potatoes don't make a man. What makes a man is that he has the neshama that allows him to grow into a full-fledged human being. Where the growth pattern consists of developing his seichel, developing his midas, and developing the means by which the seichel and midas can function in the world. When you teach a child Allah base, you're not creating the child's knowledge. You're teaching him Allah base. By teaching him Allah base, you are alerting him to a sense of knowledge that he has at a higher inception. And that allows this higher inception to develop and reveal itself in the world. You're not creating his intelligence, you're revealing his intelligence. This is the pshat shoresh. Shoresh means that it is rooted in a real source, in an infinite source. What's an infinite source? In a worldly context, there cannot be an infinite source. The world itself is finite. Infinite source means that there is a divine definition to this entity called a growth, a tree. When the plant life, all the plants were created. It says in the Torah, the Rebbe just said, Pache ha'oretz desh. And then further, Esha Mazir said and so forth. It's Pache ha'oretz desh. Where did the oretz get this deshe to produce? This deshe was contained in the principle, the spirit of the oretz. Initially, when the oretz was created with this profound resource. Okay, this is it. It was created with this profound life force. Look how great this life force is. What develops on it. But these entities that developed, they were not contained there as entities. They were contained there in the koyach of the koyach hatzameach. It's called koyach hatzameach. This koyach hatzameach is in the earth, totally undefined. It is limitless. And yet it all comes from the earth. The earth was given a divine reality, koyach, which translates when it reveals itself in the form of plain flesh. Therefore, it is true to say that the earth produces plants, not from the earth per se. The koyach hatzameach, the divine koyach hatzameach, that is contained in the earth. And that koyach hatzameach has no limit. It can produce plant indefinitely, both in terms of quantity, and quality, and duration of time. Is this it?
Yeah, finish.
Time is off, right? Okay.